Good morning. Thank you for joining us. This is GTV Breakfast. I'm Thelma Taki with the news. First story, the New Patriotic Party's Ernest Yawinim has won the Kumeuba election, polling 15,264 votes, representing 70.91% to retain the seat for the party. The by-election was expected to be closely fought following the high stakes invested in the seat by both the ruling NPP and the opposition National Democratic Congress NDC, whose candidate Kwesi Amankwa came second with 3,727 votes, or 17.29%. Supporters of the NPP, even ahead of the official announcement of collated results, hit the streets from various polling centers in wild jubilation, satisfied with the local results and convinced Ernest Enim, an economist and a chartered accountant, was on his way to represent them in Parliament. The two other contestants in the by-election, both named Kwekudua, equally did not provide much of a contest, sharing between them a paltry 2,540 votes, or 11.8%. The polls saw heavy deployment of the police, with fears that the exercise could degenerate into violence. However, the by-election was highly peaceful. The seat became vacant following the death of the NPP Member of Parliament for the area, Mr. Philip Baswa. The NPP has always won the seat since 2000, but the party left nothing to chance, providing opportunities for party bigwigs to tour the constituency and to whip up support for its candidate. Back in Accra, the Minister for Information, Mr. Kojo Ponkroma, met with the leadership of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission and unions of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation as part of efforts to resolve the disagreement over the removal of some allowances of GBC staff as part of government's nationwide payroll monitoring exercise. Meanwhile, two unions of GBC on Monday began a series of protests to openly express their displeasure with the Fair Wages decision. The Divisional Union Chairman, Mr. Samnat Kevo, and the Chairman of the Senior Management Staff Union, Mr. Mohammed Abdul Razak Tahiru, had this to say.
When the Fair Wages and Salary Commission wrote to the GBC management, but they didn't even write to them. They wrote directly to Controller Accountant General Department and copied GBC management.
Okay.
And then in the letter, they copied the Minister of Employment and Labour Relations, Minister of Finance, our sector minister, which is the Information Ministry, the head of payroll of Controller Accountant General, the Auditor General, the Internal Audit Agent. These are the people who copied. We were not actually in the know. We were not copied. No union was copied. It was only management who were also copied. The letter was not written directly, but it was either addressed to Controller Accountant General Department and copy our management, our GBC management. It was there and then that our GBC management decided to respond to those issues they've raised. Okay. And so in the course of responding, they gave the unions copies. That's how we got to know that what was going on.
Management is part of fair wages when it comes to negotiation. Yeah. So if you have written a letter to management, the writing was to have you copy the union or write directly to the union. If you do a proposal for the reviews or the institutional specific allowance, Fair Wages usually invite management to sit with them, understand the parameters, the reason alluded to under the review. When they come together, before they invite the union for negotiation. We're not privy of that. But what we are privy to was until we started hearing since May, and then we got wind of it.
Meanwhile, the divisional executives of the Public Service Workers Union PSWU of Ghana Broadcasting Corporation GBC say the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission's boss, Mr. Ben Arthur, got it all wrong by claiming that some staff of the corporation are taking allowances they are not entitled to. Addressing the press in Accra, the divisional chairperson, Mr. Samnat Kevo, said every staff at GBC currently taking any allowance is entitled to it. Mr. Kevo said claims to the contrary by Mr. Arthur do not hold water. This follows a protest by the union at GBC on Monday, calling on the commission to reverse its earlier decision to discontinue some allowances being enjoyed by staff.
Yesterday, the CEO of Fair Wages and Salary Commission, Mr. Benata, granted interview to the state broadcaster and peddled probable falsehood, and let me first deal with the falsehood. In the first place, we want to put on record that in our disposal, no GBC laborer is enjoying special computer allowance. We must emphasize on that. No laborer in GBC is enjoying special computer allowances. No GBC laborer has 3 domestic cooks. No GBC staff enjoy 82% allowance, being increased the newly negotiated allowances expected to be effective at the end of this month. The said allowances are the core specific institution allowances that have been negotiated. Example, the allowance are acting allowance, additional duty allowance, overtime, permanence, travel allowance, tools allowance, night allowance, local trips allowance, foreign trip allowance, vehicle maintenance allowance. Our information is that management of GBC, Ministry of Information and Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, are meeting today. And our expectation is that it will lead to the reversal of illegality and unilateral decision by Mr. Benatas and his Fair Wages. Failure to do this and to receive our salary at the end of this month, failure to do that, we will engage a series of industrial action.
I was shocked yesterday when I listened to him at certain media networks. He was basically lying to the extent that you are saying a laborer in GBC is taking computer allowance.
To the court now, a High Court judge, Justice Lydia Osei-Marfo, has threatened to sanction jurors empaneled in cases before her court if they continue to be absent from court. The angry judge issued the warning after 3 jurors in the case involving 2 men accused of murdering the late Member of Parliament for Ibuaka North, Mr. Joseph Boachi Dankwaidu, failed to show up in court. Justice Lydia Osei-Marfo said the jury must consider court sittings as work.
On Tuesday afternoon, Detective Chief Inspector Augustus Nkoma, the 8th prosecution witness, was expected to conclude his evidence in chief in the case titled Republic vs. Daniel Isiedu and Vincent Bosu. However, the court had to adjourn sitting because only 4 out of the 7 members of the jury were present in court. The court did not take kindly to this, compelling Justice Lydia Osei-Marfo to issue a stern warning to the jury. Per Justice Osei-Marfo's opinion, the jury was recently absent from proceedings, claiming government owed them allowances. The judge held that since their conditions have been met about a month ago, they do not have any excuse to be absent from court. She said the jury is relatively new to the system. However, some jurors have consistently refused to appear in court that they have been empaneled. According to Justice Osei-Marfo, the court had to request for the release of the prosecution witness, who is a cadet officer at the Police Training College. The judge also observed that although parties in the case are always on time, jurors often delay sitting with their consistent absenteeism and excuses. She warned that any juror from Wednesday, May 24, 2023, who comes to court late or refuses to be present for any case they have been empaneled in her court shall be sanctioned according to the law. The court also ordered the dean of the jury to appear before the court. In recent times, judges have consistently complained about the attitude of jurors towards sittings. On Monday, Justice Mariam Owusu, who is hearing the case on the murder of late Major Maxwell Adams Mahama, did not take kindly to the absence of a jury member. She is one of the many judges who have raised concerns over the behavior of jurors.
At Koforidua in the Eastern Region, the Food and Agriculture Organization, in collaboration with Women in Law and Development in Africa, has held a forum on achieving gender equality and women's empowerment through legislation, policies and investment in agriculture. This is in line with realizing the SDG goal of creating a world free of hunger by 2030.
Figures from the Food and Agriculture Organization show that over 800 million people, representing 1 out of 10, go to bed hungry every night. Also in 2021, research showed that about 32% of women were moderately or severely food insecure compared to 28% of men, thereby widening the gender gap. Food insecurity among women in Ghana is 43.3%. higher than that of men, which is 39.4%. Recognizing the role of lawmakers in the National Food Transformation Agenda, the Food and Agriculture Organization organized the forum for about 50 participants. The country representative of the FAO, Mr. Yerdi Yasmi, said supporting rural women require integrated interventions at all levels.
FAO is supporting the government of Ghana to implement its national pathway for food system transformation following the United Nations Food Systems Summit.
The National Program Coordinator of the Women in Law and Development in Africa, WILDAF, Madame Melody Dake, said the organization works to promote gender equality and development by advocating the rights of women and increasing their participation in decision-making. A representative of the UN Resident Coordinator, Mr. Peter Edu, said value chains in the agriculture sector must be more inclusive.
Gender equality can make a substantial contribution to a country's economic growth and is an important determinant of food security.
The chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs, Mr. John Osei Frimpong, was hopeful that women representation in Parliament will improve. The Eastern Regional Director of the Department of Women, Mrs. Juliana Abekwe, called for more investment in programs to eliminate stereotypes against women.
More is still needed to raise gender awareness and invest in sensitization in order to dismantle existing stereotypes that negatively affect gender mainstreaming efforts.
You probably need to grab a cup for this one. The International Tea Day raises awareness about the history and economic significance of tea around the world. The idea is to promote and implement activities in favor of the sustainable production and consumption of tea while highlighting its importance in fighting hunger and poverty.
It was a first-time event in Bolgatanga. A1 and FM station organized the day with support from Aquaborg Foundation. The agenda was to highlight the health benefits and economic importance of the drink. The station's manager, Mr. William Jalula, explained.
We here at A1 Radio have taken the lead, and it is to ensure the consumption of tea and also in supporting poverty reduction strategy.
Many are not familiar with the International Day of Tea. They agree that the education on tea consumption is important to them. A nutritionist with the Catholic Health Unit, Mr. Paul Akapunga, shared some basic benefits of tea.
Tea has a lot of antioxidants, so these antioxidants will take out the free radicals, making your blood to be clean. So you realize that when you take tea, you urinate a lot. It causes what we call the diuretic effect.
Some people at the event shared what they knew about the day.
Some of the tea bags we take contain some amount of caffeine. A lot of us do not even read. Once you hear ginger tea, you are not able to even read further to know what else. It is just flavored with ginger.
Tea is something that can eliminate hunger. It can also kick away poverty from us when we actually take it seriously.
Some staff of the FDA and a former Upper East Regional Minister attended the event.
There was unanimity about the enormity of the challenges climate change presents to Africa, though the continent accounts for only 3% of the global carbon emissions. And at the opening of the Africa Development Bank in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, all speakers said the way out is to mobilize private sector resources, which since 2016 has invested a paltry $18 billion in Africa as against $267 billion in other regions.
The world is running out of time to turn the tide of global warming, though Africa is the least emitter. It is bearing the brunt of the negative effect of climate change. Climate hazards and disasters are increasingly becoming common on the continent of Africa. The African Development Bank annual meeting underway Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt is dedicating its platform to woo private investors to come and invest on the continent of Africa. And according to the bank, since 2016 to 2021, Africa has been able to mobilize only $18 billion out of the $267 billion invested in climate-related activities in other parts of the world. And DFDB described these investments as paltry because Africa loses about $15 billion annually to climate change issues. And this is projected to go to about $50 billion by 2030 if nothing is done by the continent. And according to the president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, this is the time for the global community to join hands with Africa to mobilize private resources, to complement public sector resources, to bolster investment in green-related projects, to enable Africa withstand the shocks that come along with climate change issues.
Disaster risk financing program, which is being implemented in partnership with the African Risk Capacity, now supports African countries in managing risks of climate disasters through risk profiling, contingency planning, and disaster risk financing.
More on our relationships with our development partners. About 100 years ago, a Japanese national by name Hideo Noguchi stepped onto Ghana's soil. Since then, the relationship between Ghana and Japan has been propped up and nurtured for mutual benefit. One of the major conduits for strengthening this relationship is the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, JICA. The agency has the first female chief representative for Ghana, Madam Suzuki Mokomo. In an exclusive interview with GBC News, she reinforced Japan's commitment in partnering Ghana in her developmental journey.
We are working in the field of quality infrastructure, in health and education, universal health coverage, and then we are also working with, as I said, human resource development. JICA has been supporting to eradicate guinea worms, and then we're successful in eradicating it. And then also maternal and child health. Yes, so JICA is supporting the mother and child health record books. And I think this is also supporting the health of both mother and child. If you go to Kumasi, one of the areas is the roads are rehabilitated by Japan. So I think you'll see that the difference of the roads that were rehabilitated by Japan. One of the section was completed more than 10 years ago, but still I think the road condition is very nice. Implementation is very important, and that's where I think technical cooperation of JICA is also very important because it works together, the technical cooperation, we work together with the Ghanaians to really implement. At the end of the day, I think the development of Ghana is important, one, and then two, the relationship of these two countries is also really important.
JICA Chief Representative for Ghana, Madam Suzuki Momoko. The State of Israel describes her commitment to Ghana's development as unprecedented. The ambassador to Ghana, Liberia and Sierra Leone, Madam Shlomi Tufa, was addressing her guests at Israel's 75th anniversary concert and reception in Accra.
Israel is one of the world's most powerful nations, and with enviable state defensive mechanisms, it has over the years thrived on technology, energy, and in other sectors. The State of Israel and Ghana enjoy long-standing bilateral relations. Ties were cemented in 1958 as the first African country to have established relations with a Middle East country. Israel's support to Ghana spans from education to health, ICT, agriculture, amongst other sectors. Israel improved a neonatal care unit in the Ashanti region and some hospitals in South Suntreso, also in the Ashanti region. Madame Slumit Sufa is Israel's ambassador to Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone.
For 65 years, Israel's Agency for International Development Cooperation, MASHAV, has worked closely with the government of Ghana on projects such as the sustainable and replicable in diverse communities. Ghana, with its stable democracy, growing economy, friendly people and warm friendship with Israel, has emerged as a key partner for Israel in Africa.
Madame Sufa also said Israel will continue to support the effort towards peace and progress of the world. The Eastern Regional Minister, Mr. Sethi Champong, acknowledged Israel's contribution to Ghana's development. He said Ghana is ripe for investment.
The strategic location of the headquarters of Africa Continental Free Trade Area, AfTA Secretariat, in Ghana offers many trade and investment opportunities. I therefore wish to urge Israeli investors to partner with Ghanaian businesses and take advantage of the continent's market of 1.3 billion people as part of efforts to further expand our bilateral trade.
There was a display of Israeli culture for the audience.
A Ghanaian peacekeeper serving in the disputed Sudan and South Sudan border region of Abyei has won a UN award for championing the rights of women. Captain Cecilia Ezwa, 32, will receive the 2022 UN Military Gender Advocate of the Year award from UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Thursday. In a statement, Mr. Guterres said on every front, Captain Ezwa's work has set the standard for ensuring that the needs and concerns of women are reflected across the UN's peacekeeping operations. Captain Ezwa has served in Abyei since March 2022 as the commander of the Ghana Engagement Platoon. Ghana is currently the largest contributor of women peacekeepers in the UN, with 375 now deployed. Congratulations to the captain. Brazil has declared a 6-month animal health emergency after several cases of avian flu were found in wild birds. 7 cases have been reported in Espírito Santo